This is Karen Whooley, and welcome to the first interview of my interview series for the Pattern Club. I want to introduce Maria Tusken. She is the dyer for our February and March patterns, Adorn and Ambient, which is coming out on March 14th. So without further ado, I want to introduce Maria. And first thing I want you to do, Maria, is just tell us a little bit about yourself, your education, where you live, all the little things about you that people might not know.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. So I grew up in Montana and I learned to knit just a little over 10 years ago. And I learned how to crochet when I was 7, actually. So crochet I can do. And I always feel like it's kind of the easier craft to get started with. It's sort of like the difference between eating with chopsticks and eating with a fork. Crochet is like eating with a fork.
I agree. I was crocheter first and then learned to knit later. So I understand that.
So I've been doing both of those for a while. And then in 2015, I moved to Seattle and really, really hated kind of the whole city life, commuting to work. So I decided to start my own business and I started dyeing yarn and started Tusken Knits in 2015. And it just really took off from there. And now I live in Montana. Again, we moved back here last June and built a house. I don't know what else you'd like to know.
What were you doing commuting to work? What type of job were you doing before you started dyeing?
I was printing t-shirts.
Oh.
So I was doing silkscreen printing. I did that in Montana for like 6 or 7 years. I went to 1 year of university in Scotland, but I couldn't afford to keep going. So I came back to Montana and printed t-shirts for 6 or 7 years. And that's what I did when I went to Seattle, because that was my only work experience. So I just went into that in Seattle as well, but just did not like the city life. I'm not a city girl.
Yeah, I understand. I grew up in a small town. Well, not a real small town, but when I moved to Everett, it was a bigger city than I was used to.
It's a different life.
It is definitely a different life. Okay, so you said you learned to crochet as a child, and then learned to knit 10 years ago. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was November 2011.
Oh wow! Now, how did you learn to crochet? Let's start there, since most of my followers are crocheters.
My great grandma was an excellent crocheter, like a lot of our great grandmas probably were. She would make just beautiful dolls and toys and Afghans, of course. She was just like so precise, and the work she did was really beautiful. And she taught my sister's 11 years older than me. And she taught my sister how to crochet, and my sister loved it and really took off with it. Like when she was a kid, my sister was crocheting dolls and making these beautiful things and selling things. So she taught me to crochet when I was 7. And the only things I've really ever crocheted a lot were hats. I did a lot of hats in high school, middle school and high school. I made hats for all my friends, all my family. It's just so easy to make a hat. You don't need a pattern. You just.
Yeah, I know. I get that.
So I did a lot of those. And then I love socks and wool socks. And that's what inspired me to start knitting, is I wanted to learn how to make my own wool socks. So I bought a little Teach Yourself to Knit book and some needles and some really, really fine sock yarn and taught myself to knit. And actually my first project was a sock, which is crazy to think about. That's what I started with, but I did. And it was like probably like this skinny. So like it was not going to fit on anyone's foot.
But you got the idea down. And
I did. I was so proud of it. I brought it to work and like showed it to everyone. I still have it.
What's funny that you said that, because you and I are very similar in how we learned to knit, because I learned to crochet at 7. My grandmother taught me how to crochet, and my dad's was my mom's mom who taught me to crochet, and my dad's mom was the knitter, but she died when I was 7 and never really, she tried to teach me to knit, but it just didn't take. And so fast forward 30 years, and I found my grandmother, the one that passed away, is knit sock pattern. And I found her handwritten pattern, and my dad had typed it up for her, and it was all in one folder. And I'm like, I have to learn how to do these, because she used to make these when we were kids. So I went to a yarn shop, and the shop taught me how to knit and purl. And once I did that, that was my first project, was those socks.
Really?
Once I learned how to knit and purl. Yeah. In fact, my crochet sock patterns are based on her knit sock patterns.
Oh my gosh.
So how weird that we both kind of had the same start to.
Yeah.
It took me 30 years to learn to knit. Everybody tried to teach me how to knit. So
it just clicks when it clicks. Like when you're ready, it just happens.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's about the chopstick thing. I mean, crocheting with one hook versus 2 needles. I mean, getting that left hand involved differently is great. At least for me, it was really hard for me to figure that out. Yeah, and once they taught me how to continental, so that I could have the yarn in the same hand that I crochet, I was fine.
Yeah. I think that's what I do too. I think is continental, where I'm not a thrower. I just lift my finger up, and it's like a really simple movement. Yeah. Yeah.
And I find that people who learn to crochet first tend to be more the continental style knitter.
Okay.
And, because all of my family are throwers. My grandmother was, my mother-in-law is, and just I can do it now.
Yeah. I know. I can do it because of color work. I learned how to do it.
Yes.
But yeah, it is, to me, it's so much faster to just lift my finger, and it's just like
yeah. And so my followers who watch me regularly know that I keep telling them, if you want to learn to knit, learn continental if you're a crocheter, because
that's true.
Okay. So you want to start your own business, and what brought you to dyeing?
Well, I was like an obsessive knitter. I'm sure like a lot of your followers are really, really obsessed.
Oh yeah.
So I was one of those. Like it had sort of become my whole life, knitting. Like I had, before I moved to Seattle, I had a boyfriend in Montana, and we broke up because I would rather stay home and knit than spend time with
I get that though. And I know a lot of my followers, I'm sure a lot of you out there are watching and saying, yeah, that would be me.
Yeah. So like it was my whole life. And I started watching like knitting YouTubers, and there was one that I watched that she also started a yarn dyeing business, and I had dyed yarn a couple times before just for fun. But I saw that she was doing this business, and even though I'd never really done a lot of yarn dyeing, I just, for some reason, decided like, this is what I'm going to do. So I ordered the supplies and the yarn. I had no money at the time. Like it was a big deal for me to spend $200 or $300 on supplies. Like that was, I didn't even have that money. I probably put it on a credit card. So I just got started with a little bit, and then I also worked at Church Mouse Yarns and Tees on Bainbridge Island. So I'd worked there for, I think, almost a year. I moved over to that side and worked there, and while I was there, I was doing my business, but it's just so hard to run a business and work a full-time job. And I still didn't have very much money. Then I met my now husband, and he had a lot of faith in me. And so I quit my business and we kind of decided like we'd give it like 2 months. Or I quit my job. I don't know if I said job or business. I quit my job. Um, and he said we'd give it about 2 months of me working full time on my yarn to see if I could gain some traction. And I just like obsessively worked really, really hard at my business, doing collaborations with people, reaching out to everyone. Like it was a super supportive community. And I was kind of early in on it as well.
You were.
So as soon as a couple designers like Caitlin Hunter and stuff kind of I started collaborating with these people. My business just like it did take off in those 2 months.
It wasn't just wow.
Yeah, like it went.
Wow.
I took my business full time in September of 2016, and by the end of that year, like I was making more money than I had been making at my previous job.
Oh my gosh. That was fast.
Yeah. So I think it was just a combination of factors. Like I was kind of early in on it, so it was a little bit easier maybe to get in. But and then my business just took off from there, and I've been doing it now for over 6.5 years.
Yeah, and your colorways are when I first joined Instagram, I think it was around the time you were first starting. It was probably a few months after you started to take off.
Yeah.
But your colors are just, I have loved your colors from the beginning. You have a vibe. I don't know what it is, but where do you get your inspiration for I don't even know the colors. I mean, they're so rich and saturated, and yet the lighter colors just pop. I don't know how to explain it, but inspiration.
Well, thank you. I always dye colors for the most part that I would wear myself. And so that's when I see a lot of other yarn dyers and colors, they're not things that I would necessarily wear. They're colors that are fun and like they might be fun to knit with, but I'm more of like a practical, like I love knitting garments. That's my favorite thing. So I love knitting things that I can wear. And so yeah, I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of like the seasons. So I'm a fall, my season, the colors I like best in are fall colors. So kind of my vibe, I feel like is very much in that season, these earthy, rich colors and jewel tones and greens and browns and
but even the adorn, I mean, you call it Love Struck Baby.
Yes.
But it's on that earthy, pinky brown, and that's what I'm a winter, so usually I can't wear these colors, but like this is just absolutely stunning.
It's one of my most popular.
I love this colorway.
Mm-hmm.
Even for those of you who haven't seen the new pattern yet, for March. Oh, I forgot to take the tag out of it, but this is ambient, and this one I'm trying to remember what it's called. Is it not?
Is that one Cloak and Dagger?
This is Cloak and Dagger. Yes, this is Cloak and Dagger. And again, I mean, it's a really rich,
like wine,
but it's got enough brown tone in it that it's not true wine.
Like a neutral, like.
Yes. And so I can wear this because it's brown in it.
It looks really, it matches your glasses.
Actually, it does. And that's where I was always struck. I mean, even when I saw with Caitlin's patterns, and you did one with, did you do Dre Renee? Did you work with, no, it was somebody else.
No, I did Marie Green.
Marie Green, maybe it was that. Just the colors just struck me so much. So I immediately started following you on Instagram because it just, I mean, the colors and nothing else, they made me happy. And so, and every time at the beginning, it was hard to get your yarns. I mean, I'd get on when you'd have a shop sale, and I'd be like, all the colors I want are gone.
I know. I mean, that was kind of the way. I don't know if things are like that so much anymore with yarn dyers. I know for me, like my shop doesn't sell out like that. But there was a time where like that was kind of how the dyeing, like the hand dyed yarn world was. It was like you put your shop update live and it's sold within
Yeah.
15 to 20 minutes.
And across all the bases.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've noticed that some shops, sometimes they do because they do smaller collections, I guess, is really what they do.
Yeah.
But it's not as prevalent as it was.
Yeah.
But I remember when I got Love Struck Baby, I was like, oh my God, I finally got the color I wanted.
It's so funny because like I'm on the other end. So like I don't know that people are that like I know they're excited, but it's nice to hear that you were so happy to get it.
I was. And then when I got the Cloak and Dagger, I got another colorway. It's kind of a gray with like a green spot. Is it
Wickwood or Witchwood?
Might have been Witchwood.
Yeah.
I used that for a personal project for someone in my family, but I love that one too. Gosh. I was originally going to use the two colors together because they just seemed like fit together. But then I have this, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a shawl for a family member, and I ended up using it for that. But yeah, no, I love your colorways. And there's a blue that you had a while back, kind of that you did sweater quantities. I remember people were buying sweater quantities because it was with the mohair. I can't remember that colorway name.
Oh, the Calais.
Yes.
Not spelled like the city or the town, spelled like right. There's a stone. People always try to correct me with my spelling of that because I spell it with two L's
right
rather than one, because I named it after, there's this like turquoisey stone that is popular in Western Europe that is like that exact same color. So that's what I named it after.
That's cool. Is that a color that might come back someday?
Yeah, no, that's one I do pretty often.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I'm actually planning on trying to I'm still, after moving and everything, I'm still trying to figure out how I want to structure my business. And I'm kind of thinking I might go back to doing custom orders rather than shop updates. So that way people can get exactly what they want. Yeah. And I have dyeing down so well now that it's really not hard for me to do custom orders. I can just easily get my dyeing stuff out and dye it up really quick. It's not a big deal. So I think I'm going to go back to doing that. So if your customers want any specific color, they can get exactly what they need.
Do you have your bases and colorways listed on your site somewhere outside of the shop, or?
Yeah, I think it's in the about section.
Okay.
If I can see that here.
So I'm going to put the website link in the notes for the show and for the video and everything. So
it says, so if you go to my homepage, just tuskenknits.com, you can click on just colorways. It's in the menu right at the top there. Oh, and cool. That has most of my colorways. I probably need to update it. Yeah, I need to update it.
Okay.
But there's quite a few. And then in the about section, you can also go to colorways or bases, and that has
cool. Okay.
Most of my bases.
I haven't been on your website in a little bit, so I have to go back and look at those.
It could use a refresh, but it's mostly all updated.
But I'll make sure that we link that, and so now everybody knows too that you can find all that stuff there. Yeah. Okay, so now that you kind of segued into my next question was, tell me a little bit about your dye process. You mentioned that it's you know your colors and you can quickly dye something for someone. So tell us a little bit about what you do, the dyeing.
So I've always dyed just in my kitchen. We have a garage now. So in the summertime, I set up everything out there, which is great. And have the door open and it's lots of fresh air, but yeah, I dye in my kitchen. I don't know how far I want, like no one taught me how to dye. I just taught myself. I've never really watched videos on like what other dyers do or found out what they do. But it's mostly I put the color in the pot, like they're powdered dyes, and I put them in there and dissolve them, and then I set the yarn in, because I know some dyers will actually pour dye on the yarn. I don't do the yeah, it's more of a submersion, and it's all based on the water level. So if I don't want it to hit all of the yarn, I will not put very much water in the pot, and then I also will twist the yarn a certain way. So and most of my colors are at least like there's like two different stages. So I'll put the yarn in one color, I'll put dyes in the pot with water, and I'll put the yarn in there, let it absorb, and then I will take the yarn out and put a different color in the pot, and then set the yarn back in to get depth. And that's how you get really, really like vibrant colors. Like you can't, or at least I can't ever get really rich colors unless I like keep doing that process. So some of my super rich colors, like Cloak and Dagger is one of them. It's like, I think it's at least like 3 submersions.
Oh, wow.
I put dye in, I let it absorb, I take the yarn out, put more dye in, let it absorb. And that's how you get the super, super saturated, rich colors and just like different tones.
So it takes, depending on how saturated you are, the more time it takes to get that color, which yes. a lot of crocheters don't understand, that it takes so much time. And that's why indie dyed yarns are priced the way they are too. Yes. Not only are the bases, expensive, but then there's the time involved. So yeah. That's why I was asking about your process, because I want people to know that it's not just throw the yarn in a pot, put some color, let it sit for a minute, let it dry, kind of thing. Because there's other stages.
And the dyeing is just one part of it. Then you have to let it dry. When I was in Washington, it would sometimes take a week for my yarn to dry because of the humidity. But here it's a lot faster, which is great. But and then you have to twist it and then label it and ship it. I'm actually teaching my niece right now. She's 22. I'm teaching her to dye, and she's gotten really good at it. So she's been helping me. And I was thinking about like teaching her more of the aspects, and I started listing everything out, and like, wow, there is a lot that goes into this. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I've talked to other dyers at events that just listening to some of the stories of even the mishaps that can happen and how it costs you money for, if you burn the yarn. I've heard that story a couple times,
Oh yeah. No, I've ruined thousands and thousands of dollars worth of yarn, I'm sure, over the years. But yeah, there's a lot of things involved, but I get to work from home, which is great, and be here with our pets. And I know a lot of dyers have children, and it's just a great job.
Yeah. And you get to be creative too, which is nice.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your bases. What made you pick the bases that you use? I used Fife for both of these. And I know that's one of your best-selling bases.
Yeah, that is my best-selling base. People, I've tried lots of different bases over the years, and some of them have been fails. Some of them have been successes, and I don't necessarily, like, my favorite bases aren't necessarily the ones that everyone else likes. Like Fife, people love that base because it's a great all-around fingering weight base, and it has this really like silky feel to it. It's really drapey, so it's perfect for shawls.
And it's perfect for crochet. I tend to be the fingering weight, and I'm picky with my bases on fingering. And I can't go wrong with, I can do 3 different size hooks if I wanted to with this one base, just depending on how tight or how loose I want the stitches to be. These were, I believe these were both done on 2 different, I think this one was tighter and this one was looser. And the drape is still there. So for crochet, I've learned that some dyers think that they can pick any base, and if it works for knitting, it's going to work for crochet, but that's not true. And you probably know that as knowing how to crochet.
Yeah, I mean, there's also different ways the yarn is twisted, and I like bases that have lots of different plies to them. I don't necessarily like 2-ply yarns. Like a lot of the sock yarns that people use are 2-ply, and to me, I don't even like them for socks because they feel weird. Like it feels weird on my feet because it's more bumpy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, in fact, I made a shawl out of a 2-ply that I figured out a stitch that worked with it.
Yeah.
But I would never wear it on my feet.
Yeah, it has a different texture. It's not as good for cables and patterns.
Yeah, and you have a high twist on yours too, it looks like.
Yeah, that one's I really like the structure of that. It's just a really nice kind of classic round. I think it's 8-ply or 10-ply. Like there's a lot of little threads in there that just make it a really nice round yarn.
It is, and that in both knitting and crochet, like you said, with cables, I mean, you need that tight twist.
You do.
For the stitch definition, and that's what I look for. I look for the definition of the stitches. I mean, I look at fiber and I look at drape and all that, but stitch definition is really important.
It is.
Why crochet something if you can't really love the stitches?
I know.
So what is your favorite base then?
My favorite, my cabin DK base, which is also another popular base, but that one has a little bit of cashmere in it. And I love that. And I like knitting garments, so I tend to like slightly heavier weight yarns. I don't really knit with fingering weight a whole lot. But I like DK worsted weight. That's kind of my favorite. So yeah, my cabin DK base, which is just so scrumptious and soft.
Well, cashmere, I mean,
what's
not to love right there.
And then I also love the mohair too. I love my high feather base, which is a lace weight silk and mohair. And I remember when when dyers first started using a similar base, I thought it was so weird. I didn't get it. But then I ordered some and tried it, and you don't knit with it just on its own most of the time. You hold it together with another yarn, and it makes the coolest fabric. It's just so fluffy and soft. And now it's like anything I knit, I want to hold together with the high feather base.
Oh yeah, no, in fact, the clays that you had, that color, when you did a sweater, or you showed somebody to have done a sweater?
I have like a half knit sweater.
I just saw that and I went, oh, it's just like soft and squishy.
Oh yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
So actually your cabin DK is the next one I want to try, because my sweet spot is lace to DK. I don't usually go into the worsteds that much. I mean, you can see I've got a bunch of red heart over there, but that's for projects that I'm being commissioned to do. But if you want me to do something, it's going to be fingering, DK, that kind of thing. So your DK is the next one I want to try out. So
yeah, it's a nice one.
Yeah, everybody raves about it. So I'm excited about that one. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how you've been doing like shop updates, and that you want to switch to doing dye to order.
custom. Yeah, yeah.
Some dye to order. Are you still going to do updates, or are you going to just do?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to do updates. I'm going to try doing, people love the yarn clubs as well.
Yes,
That's
I
a
wanted to ask you about
super
that.
popular thing. And right now I have an Anne of Green Gables yarn club going. It's closed, but I will be doing another yarn club eventually. But so I've been doing the yarn clubs, and then I think I might just do custom order yarn, and I can do a pretty quick turnaround with it. I can dye it up and ship it out within a week easily, most of the time. The only problem with that is because of COVID, like the supply chain with everything and my materials and my yarn isn't always the best. So I will have to somehow figure out a way, stock up on my bases, make sure I have things in stock, because that's the only problem with custom orders. If I don't have that base, my supplier might not have it as well. So,
True.
But it's becoming less and less of a problem. Like, I think when all of this stuff started happening, a lot of the dyers, we all kind of freaked out. And so we just like bought up as much yarn as we could, which caused, it was like the toilet paper thing, like it causes a shortage.
But the supply chain seems to be better now. You hadn't kept up on that, so
it's getting better, yeah, for sure. And my supplier they're really great. They're super good at communicating. Every time they get a new shipment and they send out an email. And they're really quick with their shipping. Even in Montana, I can get my yarn within 5 or 6 days.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Well, that's good to know then. So are you going to be shifting to that sooner than later, or?
I think so. Yeah, it's because when I do shop updates recently, I have so many colors and so many bases that I don't know what everyone wants. And some of my colors, like in my bases, will wind up selling out, and other ones will sit there, and I would rather people just get what they want.
Right.
So, and then I'll do the yarn clubs, which are super fun.
So tell us about, I know it's closed, but tell us about your Anne of Green Gables. How does it work? What are you doing exactly? That kind of thing, so that people can look forward to your next one.
Yeah. So yarn clubs were kind of foreign to me, and a lot of people don't really know what they are. It's sort of like a short-term subscription service. So mine, I pretty much always do them to where they're 3 months long. So you sign up and you pay for the whole 3 months. So once a month, you get a mystery skein of yarn that is inspired by whatever the theme is. So it's Anne of Green Gables. So all the colors will be named after something from the Anne of Green Gables series. And so every month I ship out your yarn and you get a mystery skein, and you can choose the base. So you can choose fight, whichever base I have available. But yeah, that's basically it. It's not complicated. A lot of people think, because it's called a yarn club, that there's some sort of like membership, but it's more of just like a fun, like short-term subscription.
Now, do you have options? I know that some dyers do. You can order one skein, and you can do 2 skeins if you want. Do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, you can order as many skeins as you want. And quite a few of my customers with this last one, I offered that high feather base, the mohair silk one. So a lot of people ordered that plus another base. So they could knit something with both of those held together.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Mm-hmm. And going forward, are you going to release those colors into your catalog, or are they just going to be?
Most of the time, the colors are just for the yarn club. But if there is a particular color that I really, really love, it will become a regular. Like last year, I did a Sound of Music yarn club, And I did a color called I Have Confidence. And it's this really pretty gold yellow color. And that one became one of my regulars.
Yeah, I've seen that on your site, and I keep thinking, what
Mhm.
can I do with that color? Because it's really pretty gorgeous. Okay, so going forward, I mean, our industry has changed so much since you started. I've been in crocheting for, as a designer for 23 years. It's changed even more since when I started. So tell me, with the current landscape of knitting and crochet, and do you have plans for the future? Have you thought farther into the future what you want to do, or are you going to kind of stick with the status quo for a while, or what do you think
Um, I definitely have thought about the future. And I have plans. I'm probably not going to tell anyone
you don't have to?
too much
Yeah.
about that, but my niece, she just had a baby last year. So he's about 6 months old now, and she really loves the business and wants to do more with it. So I definitely want to give her a lot more responsibilities and kind of take her on with the business. So that's kind of part of my plans
So
with
you'll probably have some
giving.
expansion because you have an extra set of hands in there to help you.
Yeah, and
Good.
she I think also would like to have some say and like use her creativity a bit as well. So I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I mean, I'm totally open to
That's
things
great.
shifting and changing. Like I don't want to just keep doing the same thing forever.
Yeah.
And I've had this business now for 6.5 years. So I feel like it's definitely time, like if my niece wants to change it somehow and kind of do her own thing, like I'm totally open to that. So her and I are kind of going over that right now.
But that's so cool that you have someone like that you can bring in that's a little bit younger and
Yeah.
is so excited about it. See, that's
Yeah.
where, for me, my kids grew up with me doing this, but neither, well, they did. My son will probably kill me for saying this, but they both know how to crochet,
Yeah.
but neither of them are interested in this. So my
Yeah.
mom who lives in California is very interested in crochet. And if she was
Okay.
closer, I'd probably bring her in to help me, but she's not. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's really cool to have somebody like that. And that you know that you can count on, at least right now, for
Yes.
everything. So that's what's really important.
Yes. Yeah. She lives in the town, the city closest to us. So she's about 45 minutes away. So yeah,
Oh,
it's not too bad.
yeah. Oh, that's so exciting though. And it's good to
Mhm.
know that things are moving forward. Because I know with the pandemic, for me, I had to pivot because I
Yeah.
taught at large events, and it all became Zoom, and then we
Yeah.
moved, and then it was
Yeah.
like, ah.
I
So,
know. It's like this last 2 years have been so chaotic. Just, I have not felt settled this whole time. Like, I still don't completely because things are still shifting. Like,
that's true. And yeah, it's my business has changed. I'm sure, and I've watched the Dyers shift, and I'm so glad you're still around because a lot of Dyers had to close because of supply chain
okay.
things, and just losing customers because everybody kind of hunkered in. And
Have they really? I don't follow. That's one of the things that I did with my business after a couple years. I unfollowed pretty much almost like every other dyer because I just, me personally, didn't want to feel like I was in competition. So I don't even know what's going on out there.
well, see, that's exactly, I don't follow most of the designers out there, but I follow all the Dyers because I want to know
Yeah.
about the yarns.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, there's been several that there's one that the very first indie dyer I ever worked with, she closed her business right as the pandemic
Oh my gosh.
was hitting. And then it just seemed like a lot of different dyers. There's a lot that have risen out of it all,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people just shut their doors. They didn't know what they were going to do. So I'm really glad to see people like
Yeah.
you few others that, that I've worked with that are still around, and they're going to be around for a while. So that's why I
Yeah.
asked about going forward.
Yeah.
Because things have changed so much. I mean,
Yeah.
just in 2 years, it changed the landscape of how you did your business. So.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah. And I mean, I will keep going, but things are going to change.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the change is good though. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yes. Yeah.
is there anything else you want to tell us about? Let my viewers know about what's going on maybe in the next month or two that they can expect, or
I mean, that's about it. I would suggest subscribing to my newsletter. So maybe you can put a link to that below.
Absolutely.
Because that's how I mostly communicate with like shop updates. I've kind of not stepped away from Instagram, but it's not my main source of business. Like most of my customers actually come from my newsletter. So I would suggest subscribing to that. And like I said, I'm going to be opening custom orders. So I've done it before and it's super easy. You can just scroll through the colors, select the color, the base, all of that. So your customers can get exactly what they need if they're knitting your shawls.
Okay. So in the meantime, since one of them's already been released and one's coming, if they want to contact you, can they contact you and let you know that they're interested in these colors? Because totally. A lot of them really like the Love Struck Baby for the February one. So, and they've asked me, are you going to have it in the shop? And I said, I don't know. So. Yeah,
they can totally send me an email. It's maria@tuskennits.com.
Okay.
That's my business email. And yeah, I can definitely dye up the color and whatever base they want. That's Fife, right? And I think I have Fife in stock. So
okay. Well, then they'll know that they can contact you if they don't see it on the site. They can contact you. So perfect.
I should be getting that custom order listing up this week at some point, and then I'll send out a newsletter and let everyone know.
Yeah, I'm kind of the newsletter subscriber person too. So that's kind of my big way to let people know. So
yes,
are you on any very important media or just Instagram?
I have a YouTube channel, but I don't post on there very often. I did a video like a month or two ago.
Okay.
It's hard for me to it doesn't seem like it, but it feels like an all day thing to do a YouTube video. So I don't do it that often.
Yeah, no. I just want to say thank you for being here. I'm so glad you were able to do this. We were able to find a time.
Yes.
I'm sorry about making the mistake there, but of reading your message and not realizing you weren't getting the link. But I'm glad we were able to figure it out and do this. I'm so glad you were willing to talk to everybody. I know everybody's excited to find out more about you. So
thank you.
Thank you. And thanks. And for everybody else who's watching, thanks for joining us today. And thanks for being a part of the Team Hooligan community. And we'll be doing another one of these hopefully in the next couple months. Talk to you guys all soon. Bye, y'all.